Hey guys. This is part 3 of What If Naruto Faked His Death. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start. Chapter 10. The Insurmountable Peaks. Point 1. Snow fell heavily outside. Freezing cold air was entering the small shack through the door that Naruto and Karen had left open by just a crack. While they both knew it would be much warmer if they had completely shut the door, there was a risk that they would be snowed in, and they didn't want to get trapped inside. While Naruto got to work starting a fire in a small pot-belly wood-burning stove, Karen left the room to explore the other area's shack they had ignored upon their arrival. Once Naruto finished lighting the fire, he quickly set about preparing a meal. Nothing fancy, just some rice and a quick one-pot curry made with some of the fresh ingredients that wouldn't last the trip. If he was honest with himself, he wanted ramen. But he also knew that he now had a finite supply, and if he caved in and had ramen every time he felt like it, they wouldn't last. Surprisingly, the food was almost cooked when Karen returned with torch in hand. "This place is much larger than I first thought," she said in awe. "Find anything interesting?" Naruto asked hopefully while stirring the curry. Karen shrugged and took a seat at the table. "Yes and no. There are a lot of rooms that seem to have no purpose. They are not even large enough to be bedrooms, and they are filled with nothing." She sighed while folding her arms on the table and resting her head. Sounds like it may have been the armory. It's unlikely that they would have left the weapons behind when they left. Naruto guessed casually, giving the curry a final stir before making sure the rice was cooked. He produced 2 plates from his traveling pack and began dishing up. "Here you go. It's not much, but I'm guessing it's better than nothing," he said, passing her a plate along with some cutlery as well as chopsticks, not knowing which she preferred. Karen eyed the dish apprehensively. It was not that she didn't trust Naruto not to poison her. He was not Orochimaru or Kabuto. It was more that she doubted his cooking ability. She was half tempted to decline and make herself something. She had always been the one to cook for Sasuke and their group, so she was quite confident that she was a good cook despite never getting a compliment. "It would be rude of me not to at least try some," she decided eventually, and gingerly took a bite. Much to her surprise, it tasted delicious. "Wow, Naruto, this is amazing," she complimented, happily taking another mouthful. Naruto smiled and began digging into his own plate. "Yaero-sen used to make it for us when we were forced to camp out during my training. I like ramen, but this is still one of my favorites," he said joyfully in between bites. "I have to say, I didn't expect you to be much of a cook," Karen admitted. "Yeah, I get that. I lived alone since I was 5, so I was forced to cook for myself. Most of the time I went to Ichiraku Ramen, but that was mostly because they were the only people at the time that treated me kindly, well, other than Irika-sensei and Gigi." Naruto said, a shadow of the old pain he felt crossing his face. Karen's eyes widened slightly. "I had no idea he had it so bad as a kid. He's been through so much, yet he hasn't let himself be brought down. He could so easily hate everyone for what they have done to him, yet he remains so happy and confident. How does he do it?" she questioned herself in awe. "Yeah, that's why when Sasuke's family was killed, I was kind of happy. Not because they were dead or anything, but because I saw someone I thought was like me, all alone," Naruto said sadly. He still hadn't forgiven himself for surviving where Sasuke had not. Too bad he was such a team. He chuckled weakly. Karen was confused now. "I don't get it at all. Is he still upset at Sasuke's death? Even after everything Sasuke put him through? Sasuke tried so hard to kill you, he did such horrible things, yet you seem sad. Why?" she asked, unable to contain her curiosity. "Yes, he did, but I always felt like Sasuke was the first person to ever understand me. He was my first real friend and almost like a brother to me. His life would have been different if it wasn't for Itachi telling him that he needed to get revenge. Still, I think Itachi realized his mistake in the end. He wanted to motivate Sasuke to become strong but gave him the wrong message. Maybe that really is just the way that the Uchiha clan thought, that revenge was always necessary. Madara certainly thought that way, and so did Obito," Naruto answered. He held no hostility towards Itachi. In fact, as far as Naruto was concerned, Itachi was somewhat of a hero. His mistakes with Sasuke just went to prove that even the best of people can make mistakes. "Who's Obito?" Karen asked, slightly confused. "He was the masked Akatsuki ninja, a former Konoha ninja that was in Kakashi-sensei's Genin team. He wanted to put the world in an eternal genjutsu with his Sharingan so he could control everyone for the rest of his life," Naruto answered. Karen nodded, then a puzzled look spread across her face. If we were all placed in an ocular genjutsu, wouldn't everyone just die of starvation after about a week? And even if they didn't, there would be no next generation, so the world would come to an end one way or another. Karen theorized. Yeah, I don't know how well he thought the idea through. Naruto shrugged. He hadn't really thought about the Moon's Eye plan in much detail, but now he had to admit Karen had a point. He had experienced Itachi's genjutsu and knew he couldn't move when trapped inside. The entire world was Itachi's plaything, which was the exact purpose of Madara's so-called final solution. That really doesn't make any sense. Why go through all that trouble anyway? The red-haired Kunoichi asked, still puzzled. He lost someone. He loved her, but from what I heard she didn't think much of him. Naruto answered. Upon saying it out loud, he couldn't help but think that the situation reminded him a little too much of himself and Sakura, and of Jiraiya and Tsunade. The difference was that Rin died, still he could never imagine seeing his mentor ever being bitter at the world. As for himself, well, if you can survive the pain of being a Jinchuriki, then you can deal with anything. The pair continued to talk over their meal. Despite having been traveling with each other for quite some time now, they continued to learn more about each other. Despite being one of Orochimaru's subordinates, Naruto found her work rather interesting, even if he didn't understand most of it. He always listened with rapt attention, not wanting to miss out on anything. Karen, for her part, found Naruto's stories similarly riveting. After a while, she began to wonder if Naruto ever had any missions where he didn't run into some form of top-class shinobi. She had heard of the first encounter with Zabuza from Sasuke, but Naruto's version was more believable. Sasuke made it seem like he had defeated his opponent with ease, while Naruto openly admitted they were both well and truly outclassed, and only survived out of dumb luck and resilience. Karen was also the perfect audience, always laughing at the right times and gasping when something shocking was happening. Naruto was having a ball. He hadn't had so much fun in a long time, certainly not since pain had attacked Konoha. After that, it had been constant training and fighting. The realization was just now hitting him that he was finally free. He could find a nice place to live out the remainder of his years in peace, at least he hoped. That said, he had to admit he would miss some of the adventures he had. Although had he stayed in Konoha, there was a chance that he would have been made the next Hokage, which would his time of going on missions anyway. They were so engrossed in their conversation that their food slowly went cold thanks to the freezing wind still leaking into the cabin that was only made bearable thanks to the fire. Still, they didn't mind so much. The overall flavor of the meal made it bearable even when cold. Once they had finally finished their meal, Naruto sighed and slowly began to stand. We should go take a look at that map. It will make the next few days easier for us if we can find out the locations of all the northern lying outposts. A few more nights like this would be nice, Naruto admitted. Karen nodded. For her part, she could never recall having so much fun, certainly not at any point after joining Orochimaru's service. So she was quite disappointed to be forced to get back to work. I still can't figure Naruto out. He's seen so much pain and hardship, yet he's remained so happy. Really, he's like a child. But he certainly has a serious side to himself as well. If I am honest with myself, this is what I hope Sasuke would have been like if he relaxed a little more. Although maybe not so much of an idiot as the Naruto in some of his stories. She giggled at the last thought. Naruto noticed this and raised an eyebrow in confusion. Oh, what's so funny? Did I sit on something? He asked, frantically attempting to see if there was any mark on the back of his trousers. Karen broke out in a fit of laughter at Naruto's antics. No, it's nothing like that. I was just thinking about something funny, that's all. She chuckled. Naruto rubbed the back of his head in embarrassment. Oh, so what was so funny? He asked. That would be my secret, she teased before walking past the lightly disappointed blonde with a smirk. Now come on, you wanted to check out this map, didn't you? Naruto nodded and followed after the kunoichi. Ah man, why do I get the feeling that she is laughing at me? Naruto thought self-consciously. Maybe because you are still an idiot. Regardless, it does not matter what that woman thinks, you should not engage her. She's proven herself to be incompetent, yet you still keep her around. Kurama growled in annoyance inside his head. Ah, come on Kurama, Karen isn't that bad, it's quite nice having her around. Naruto reasoned. Kurama let out a feral growl that only the Kyuubi could, filled with malice and anger. Despite what you may think, Naruto, I hold no love for your friends, or mankind in general for that matter. I am loyal to you and you alone. My only goal is to keep you safe. While that woman is around, you are far from being safe, so do not do anything so foolish as to gain an emotional attachment to her, the fox warned angrily. Naruto sighed and slowly nodded. Don't worry, Kurana, I have no desire to become attached to Karen. Once we are over these mountains, I am sure we will go our separate ways. Kurama couldn't tell for sure, but he thought he heard a hint of sadness in his Jinchuriki words. Since Naruto had mastered his emotions to take control of his powers, reading the blonde's mood had become harder. I hope you are right, Naruto, but remember that you are not the only one that can become attached. The Kyuubi spoke. Kurama had improved a lot, but his natural distrust of humanity would not be worn out over a few months. As far as the giant fox was concerned, Naruto was the one human worthy of his respect and protection. Naruto didn't answer the fox this time, as Karen had removed the map from the wall and placed it over a square table that fit the size of the map perfectly. The only indicator to what he was thinking was a slight smile forcing its way upon the edge of his lips. This is a really complex map. There are lots of signs I don't even recognize, Karen admitted, looking over the ragged piece of paper. Naruto scratched his head, also confused about what many of the odd signs may mean. Looks like it's written with a code that IWA Shinobi use. He guessed, taking a seat, and started poking the map, as if expecting something to change and make it easier to read by touching it. Karen was almost surprised. As far as academics went, she knew Naruto was not exactly the top student, but he deduced that perfectly. Different villages would use special codes on their maps to conceal areas of importance to the individual villages. I can probably work a basic key if you have another map with at least some of this area, she said after studying the symbols slightly closer. She did have some experience with breaking codes while working with Orochimaru. It was not her strongest area, but she was confident she could at least decipher enough of the map to make it useful. The more detailed the better, she added as an afterthought while Naruto began searching his traveling pack for a map. Here you go. As unfortunate as having to leave Awame was, I at least got all the equipment we will need before I was attacked. The blonde sighed, handing Karen folded map. It doesn't cover the same area and it's not shinobi quality, but it's the best I could find, he admitted. Karen inspected the two maps for a few moments, slowly tracing the path that the pair had taken from Awame on the map Naruto supplied. She hummed with slight intrigue. What is it? Naruto asked. He was hoping that Karen had made a breakthrough. I should be able to work with this. There have been some changes in the landscape judging on the two maps. I guess it is to be expected in a part of the world where landslides are an almost daily occurrence. It could take a while, but I should be able to decipher at least the locations of Iwa's hideouts up in the mountains. Karen answered. Alright, do you need anything? I may not be good at smart things like deciphering maps, but I can do other things. I brought some tea when I was out buying equipment. I'm not that big of a fan, but I thought you might like it. I can make you some if you want, Naruto said. He didn't like that he was still basically useless at the non-physical side of being a ninja. Sure, he may be one of the strongest people currently alive, but things like codes and passwords still made him feel like the dead last in the academy. That would be nice, thanks, Karen agreed. She was once more left bewildered by Naruto. He doesn't even like tea much, but he brought some just in case I liked it. How can anyone be that nice? Or is it just because I am so used to being around the wrong type of people? God damn you, Naruto, how can there be such a big difference between you and everyone else I have met? Well, that's not true. Some of those guards of my cell in Konoha were quite kind considering I was a prisoner. Karen was so lost in her internal conflict she had completely spaced out when Naruto returned. I gotta stop thinking about him, she said, suddenly shaking herself awake. Thinking about who? Naruto asked while setting down a cup in front of the red-headed kunoichi. Karen first paled, then went as deep a red as her hair. I was thinking about the man who made this map. Yeah, just thinking about how skilled he was at code. She lied. While many wouldn't have believed her, and she fully expected to be called out on it. Naruto was still as clueless as ever. His experiences with Hinata had apparently taught him nothing. Oh. Yeah, thinking up codes must be tough. Well, unless you're someone like Shikamaru, he would be able to come up with something perfect in a matter of seconds, Naruto said with his standard foxy grin. Sounds like he's really smart. Karen sighed, relieved that Naruto had believed her. Yeah, he's the smartest person I know. The only problem is he's really lazy. Naruto chuckled. Karen giggled lightly as she returned her attention to the two maps. Silence filled the room as Karen worked. Naruto, despite being the impatient type, did not want to distract her in the chance that she may make a mistake that would lead them to become horribly lost. I think I've got it. If I am right, then we might have a far easier time over the next few days, Karen said, smugly pushing her thin glasses higher up the bridge of her nose. Why is that? If it doesn't stop snowing so heavily, it doesn't look like we are going to get very far at all, Naruto replied skeptically. IWA have underground passageways that connect all their outposts, or at least most of them. For some reason the path stopped before the outpost that is at the most northern point. Karen replied. Wow, you're amazing, Karen. We could take days, if not weeks off the trip north. Naruto beamed. Of course, I was one of the best scientists in all of the Oto bases after all. She said contentedly. So where do you think the entrance to the underground passageway is? Naruto asked. I don't know, I would say it's downstairs in the armory. Let's go have a look. The light down there is not so good, so 2 pairs of eyes will be better than 1. Karen answered. Naruto nodded readily and jumped up to his feet. Alright, it's still early, and it will save us some time tomorrow morning. The staircase that led down to the underground area of the outpost was hidden behind an old false wall. Only the decay of time allowed it to be visible. Several large holes gave its position away quite spectacularly. They went through quite a lot of effort to keep this place hidden. A tiny staircase right up against the edge of the building. If you couldn't see it, you would think it was just the outside wall. Naruto marveled. Yeah, I was hopeful of finding something interesting down here earlier. But I guess IWA would want to keep their weapons hidden should any invaders ever overrun this place. Not that anyone would ever want to, Karen said, taking out a small chakra-powered torch. The stairs were steep, almost straight down. Naruto added chakra to his feet just to be on the safe side. Last thing he wanted was to slip and fall, knowing Karen was on the stairs below him. One thing Naruto did notice quite pleasantly was the fact that it was warm down there. Although the comfort that added was small when the area was so dark he couldn't even see his feet. Only Karen's torch lit the way. Naruto waited until he made it to the bottom of the stairs before retrieving his own torch. The light instantly illuminated a large room easily as large as the cabin above them, although it was completely empty. Some small scuff marks indicated that the room was once filled with furniture of some form. It's much warmer down here. Even without the fire, I don't think I need my jacket. They must have used this area more often during the winter to stay warm. Naruto guessed. Well, the upstairs would be warm as well if we closed the door properly. But I think you are right regardless. The ground is a perfect insulator. Regardless of where one of Oto's bases were, anything underground stayed at a pleasant temperature. Karen agreed. So any ideas where the entrance to the tunnels may be? Naruto asked, looking around the room with his light. Several doors branched out off either wall, but none of them looked like they were large enough to hold a pathway of any sort. No idea. Judging by the effort that they went through to hide the staircase down here, I would say it's hidden behind another false wall. Just look for anything that seems out of place. Karen suggested. You mean like everything here? This whole place seems odd to me. Naruto said flatly. Oh, just shut up and get to work. Karen snapped, although there was no real malice in her words. The pair split up, each taking separate sides of the underground complex. Every so often Naruto would whine about not being able to see anything different about any of the rooms. What about you, Kurama? Can you sense anything? The blonde asked after searching his third room. No, I can't sense anything. But that shouldn't matter all that much at all. I would have found the entrance to the passageway by now if I was in your shoes. The large fox yawned, slightly bored by the current events. How? Naruto asked, slightly shocked. By doing what you and I do best. By destroying things. Just channel some senjutsu and knock a hole in each of the walls. The one that gives, or is hollow, is obviously hiding something. Kurama answered plainly. You know Kakashi-sensei would call that reckless and over the top. Naruto chuckled. Well, it's a good thing the Cyclops isn't here. Now go destroy something. Kurama ordered. Well, I can't argue with your logic. Naruto replied, sitting down cross-legged in the center of the room and began channeling his senjutsu. You can't argue with anyone's logic. You need to be smart to be able to do that. Of course I am disregarding Uchiha logic. They go about trying to destroy the world every time they get a small disappointment. Kurama laughed. Naruto deadpanned, almost losing his focus in channeling senjutsu. They were not all bad. Surely. Naruto sighed. He knew that no matter how long he lived, Kurama would never see the Uchiha clan in a good light. Kurama seemed to find Naruto's statement highly amusing and couldn't help but laugh. Put it this way, Naruto. The only decent, mentally stable Uchiha you met was Itachi. Yet he was the one who killed off his entire clan. What does that say about the clan if the black sheep of their family was one of the biggest heroes in Konoha's history? The only good Uchiha is a dead Uchiha, the fox declared. Naruto just sighed. He had no desire to argue with his companion on this topic. For the most part, Kurama had lightened up considerably. But you don't lose hundreds of years of hatred and anger over a few months, even with Naruto as your Jinchuriki. Karen almost dropped her torch. The room began to be saturated in chakra, and it didn't take a genius to figure out where it was coming from. What is this? she gasped breathlessly. She closed her eyes and once more indulged herself in the warmth that was Naruto's chakra. Only this time it was different, not overwhelming and wild-like when he was fighting the former Iwa Umbu. This was gentle yet she could tell extremely powerful. Amazing, it looks like the chakra is flowing around him like a protective shell. But there is something that feels so familiar about it, she thought, completely forgetting her task to find the hidden pathway. Naruto opened his eyes, the light from his torch bouncing against a nearby wall illuminating his bar-like pupils and the deep red pigment surrounding his now golden eyes. It looks like I don't need to destroy all the walls after all, Naruto said out loud. What do you mean? Kurama questioned, somewhat stunned by Naruto's declaration. I can feel the exit. Well, to be more precise, I can feel the air flowing from upstairs into the wall. Regardless, it was a good idea to use Sage Mode, thanks Kurama, Naruto answered calmly. Regardless of what was happening, Naruto always felt more at peace in Sage Mode. It was just something about being connected with all nature around him and being able to sense even the slightest change in his surroundings. Naruto slowly rose to his feet, dusting himself off. The amount of dirt on the floor after being empty for such a long time was monumental. The only clean part was the area Naruto had been dusting with his ass. As the blonde exited the room, he found Karen standing there looking apprehensive. Are you all right, Naruto? She asked cautiously. I'm fine, I know where the exit is, follow me, Naruto replied, walking to an inconspicuous doorway in the far corner of the main room. The light from Karen's torch flicked across his face as he crossed the room, and she almost dropped to the floor. She now knew where she had felt this new chakra before. Jugo. When he went out of control, it was the same, yet Naruto's was refined, calm. While Jugo was at times a slave to his power, Naruto was its master. He doesn't have a curse mark, but this concentration is far higher than any curse mark anyway. Hell, it's stronger than Jugo when he transformed, and he was part of the source for the curse marks, she thought. Her torch hung limply at her side, still unable to walk. Are you coming? Naruto asked in a joking voice. The question shook the kunoichi from her daze, and she followed after him, silently cursing herself for acting like a child caught with their hand in the cookie jar. She found her resolve when she entered the room, however. How did you get that chakra? She asked firmly. Huh? Naruto asked, clearly puzzled by Karen's accusatory tone. You heard me. That chakra, you have saturated your body with it. Nothing good can come of using it. That same chakra drove Jugo to madness, she warned. It's senjutsu. It can't drive anyone mad. Well, maybe if they couldn't balance the levels of senjutsu and normal chakra, and they almost turned to stone. It almost happened to me a few times. Luckily, Fukusuka-sama was there to him me with his cane, Naruto replied, although he winced slightly at the memory of being hit in the head multiple times. Karen was stunned. Senjutsu. Fukusuka-sama? She stammered, completely lost with Naruto's explanation. Something that is not easy to do to a scientist, even if they are only 16. Senjutsu is nature chakra. I convert the energy of nature into my own. It strengthens me considerably. Fukusuka-sama is one of the great Toad sages who taught me how to use senjutsu after Erosenin was killed. Trust me, Karen, I'm perfectly fine. Now let me show you where the tunnel to the next outpost is, Naruto explained. Karen nodded, understanding the process. She was also incredibly intrigued at the process. Can anyone learn how to do that? She asked. Well, I guess so, but the training needs to take place in specific areas. I think only certain summons have the knowledge, and they only teach those that they deem worthy. I was only chosen because Erosenin believed in me, and the elders had faith in his judgment, Naruto said, walking up to the northern wall and placing his ear against it. This is it, he added confidently. Karen was a little dejected. She had no summons, nor was it something that she could ask Naruto to teach her. From the sound of it, senjutsu was a closely guarded secret only given to a select few. She watched in awe as Naruto demolished the fake wall with a single punch, revealing a massive tunnel that traveled further than her torchlight would allow. Amazing, she gaped in awe. She then decided to take this moment to ask another question that had sprung to mind. When you were fighting with Asahi, you were covered in a chakra shroud. It felt much stronger than you do now. Was that a more advanced form of senjutsu? Naruto paused for a moment. He knew she would ask about his fox cloak eventually. He was certainly not ashamed to be the Jinchuriki of Kyuubi, but he didn't know how Karen would react. That was something else. I'll tell you about it some other time, Naruto said. Why not tell her the truth? Kurama asked. I didn't want her to overreact. She's basically stuck here with me now. What if she thinks I'm a monster or something? Unlike the people of Konoha, I am not a hero to her, Naruto answered. The chances are she already knows. That woman spent a lot of time with that Uchiha that constantly tried to kill you. Who you called a friend. Kurama scoffed. So he would have mentioned that you were a Jinchuriki when they were out hunting the Hachibi. Naruto closed his eyes, realizing that Kurama was probably right. I still don't want to make things difficult between us. I will tell her when we are safely over these mountains and she can go her own way, he declared. Since Kurama and Naruto found a common ground and became allies and friends, they had not had many serious disagreements. They would argue, but most of the time it was rather light-hearted. But there was tension brewing over Karen. I don't like her. She is using you to survive. But it is your life, and I have warned her many times, so this will be the last thing I have to say on the matter. I will not hesitate to kill her should she threaten you. If need be, I will warn her myself should she continue to grow attached to you, the fox replied. Kurama may be old and used to being alone, but now he had finally found a friend. He would not let harm come to him if he could help it. Naruto couldn't help but smile. I truly hope it doesn't come to that, Kurama. His conversation over Naruto's attention returned to the outside world. Well, looks like we have a nice shortcut through part of the mountains. It's getting pretty late. Let's get some sleep so we can make an early start in the morning. Karen gave a weak smile in agreement. I hope I didn't upset him when I asked about his fight with Asahi. Kami, I'm such an idiot, she berated herself as they both ascended the steep stairs, before separating into their separate bedrooms. Chapter 11. Early Morning Revelations. Once more Karen found herself on the large bridge in the land of iron. Danzo had her trapped, using her as a human shield for Sasuke's attacks. Sorry boy, I can't afford die just yet, I have just been made Hokage. Danzo said contentedly. You make it seem like you actually have a chance to escape with your life. Sasuke sneered, his smirk seemed darker than usual. If you value the life of your comrade, then you will back away. Danzo replied firmly. Sasuke chuckled darkly. Comrade, huh? Tell me, what use is a comrade who gets themselves captured? Danzo paled slightly. Sasuke's way of thinking was not all that different from how he trained his own men to think. The mission always came first. Any losses were acceptable as long as the mission was a success. Karen, don't move. Sasuke raised his hand and a spear of electricity shot through her body. Karen shot up in bed, cold sweat dripping from her forehead. That dream again. Why can't I just forget? Is that even how it went down? She asked herself in light sobs. She suddenly had the feeling that she was all alone. To calm her nerves, she spread out her chakra sensory ability to the next room. For whatever reason, she craved just to feel the warmth of Naruto's chakra. Quietly she questioned if it was possible for someone's chakra to be addictive, a thought that was soon forgotten as she realized that his room was empty. He's not there, she panicked. She instantly spread her mind's eye throughout the cabin, and even the surrounding area. She found the blonde downstairs in the underground part of the outpost. Quickly hopping out of bed, Karen wrapped a blanket around her body to escape the cold and exited the room. The sun had not made its appearance yet, but she could tell from the small windows in the cabin that it was not far off. A small pale light crossed the sky, indicating the day was upon them. As Karen slowly made her way down the steep stairs, she didn't need her sensory ability to feel Naruto's chakra anymore. The air was thick with it. Calm and restrained, yet powerful, like a horse in the gates before a race, just waiting to explode. She felt the effects of his chakra almost immediately. The anxiety she felt was gone. In its place was a feeling of security, like nothing bad could go wrong while he was around. The feeling was intoxicating. While she was in her tired state, the scarlet-eyed Kunoichi didn't even attempt to shy away from the young Jinchuriki as she slowly approached the room in which his chakra was emanating. Naruto had woken almost an hour earlier. Knowing he wouldn't get any more sleep, he decided the best use of his time would be to train with Kurama. He wanted to let his traveling companion sleep as long as she could. He knew that despite the convenience of the underground tunnel system, it was still going to be a long day of traveling. His solution was to increase the distance between himself and Karen to avoid waking the sleeping Kunoichi. That way he could train without restraint. The blonde's spar was not going well. By his own suggestion, Naruto had decided to fight without the use of senjutsu, and this was proving to be a rather poor decision to make. Time after time Kurama simply swatted him away. His regular Rasengan did little to no damage to the giant fox, and despite the numbers advantage gained by his now expert use of shadow clones, every exchange ended in the same way. Naruto lay beaten on the ground. You're still 100 years too early to fight me without senjutsu. Although I do commend your willingness to try, Kurama said, catching Naruto with one of his tails as he fell after yet another failed attack. Yeah, I guess I still have a lot to learn. I wish Kakashi-sensei was here. He would know what I needed to improve on. Granted, he would do a half-arsed job and spend more time reading his porn than actually training me. But he always knew the best way for me to improve. Naruto sighed. Don't look to the past, Naruto. Those who do that are always filled with regrets. Focus on what you have now, look to the future. Kurama lectured. Big words coming from someone who has held a grudge for over a century. Naruto laughed jokingly. Shut it, brat, I could kill you right now and take your body. The giant fox said threateningly. Naruto wasn't convinced, however. They had become close friends, and now the blonde could always sense the difference between Kurama's fake anger and the full might of rage that the bijou could produce. I don't get upset, I was only joking, he replied, playing along. I was not upset, I was simply stating fact. Kurama replied in a far more relaxed tone. Both parties were startled by a loud and worried yell. What was that? Naruto asked while wondering if that came from inside his mind space. For most people that would be an absurd thought. But Naruto had already had two people show up out of the blue, and he had long since denied the possibility that his father may have left him one more surprise for him to find in his own time. It was outside. I swear your brain is becoming slower by the day. Maybe Madara hit you on the head one too many times? The large fox scoffed. He had wasted little time in discovering the source of their interruption. Naruto slowly opened his eyes and came face to face with a shocked and very worried Karen. Hi. Naruto greeted slowly. He was slightly confused with the look on the kunoichi's face. Karen opened her mouth to speak, but the words seemed to be lost in the back of her throat. All that came out was audible gibberish. Karen, are you alright? Naruto asked, now slightly concerned for the state of his travel companion. Am I alright? What about you? Karen yelled, finally finding her voice. What do you mean? Naruto asked curiously. You're all cut up and bleeding. What happened to you? Karen said, tossing the blonde a small pocket mirror so he could see the state of his face. Naruto was still puzzled as he picked up the mirror, but he soon understood. His face was bleeding from several areas. In fact, it was a miracle that he was even able to see. Whoa, how did this happen? He yelled in disbelief. Karen looked at the clueless Jinchuriki with a sweat drop. You mean you don't know? Kami, it looks like you have been run over by one of Orochimaru's snake summons. She deadpanned. Naruto scratched his head, trying to think how he could have ended up in such a condition. Kurama, why am I in such bad shape? I haven't moved from this spot since we started training. It would appear that you are not as indestructible in your mindscape as we predicted. While the damage done is considerably less, your physical body is still affected. It is a good thing that we have found this out now. Should you have died during our spar, your physical body could die. It's a shame. As far as training goes, nothing is better than fighting with your life on the line. It is a shame we will not be able to exploit this for our gain. The large fox assessed. Naruto nodded in understanding. Then he realized that Karen was still looking at him, expecting some sort of explanation. Say, what do I tell Karen? The truth, of course. I see no reason to hide the fact you were training with me. Kurama replied simply. With any luck, it will scare her off. If she knows Naruto has backup, anything she may be planning to do to him will be abandoned. He added to himself. Naruto began to rub the back of his neck in slight embarrassment as his wounds began to heal. I guess I hurt myself training with Kurama, he said sheepishly. Kurama? Karen questioned, half expecting someone to pop out of nowhere, having followed the pair in secret for weeks. Kurama is my bijou. The Kyuubi, Naruto said simply. If this was a simple explanation, it didn't show for Karen, who gawked while looking completely lost. What do you mean, the Kyuubi? You train with a bijou? She stammered slowly. Yeah, he's not a bad guy, or should I say fox. He can be grumpy though, and if you even think the word Uchiha, he destroys something. That might just be me though, as our minds are linked. Naruto mused. Are you serious? Why are you so calm about having contact with your bijou? Jinchuriki are supposed to keep their bijou inside, not become friends with it. Karen exclaimed flatly. Why not? If people took the time to try and understand the bijou, then maybe they wouldn't have such a bad attitude towards humans. Kurama is a friend, no different than anyone else. Well, apart from the fact he lives in my mind and when released is the size of a small mountain. Naruto replied. You mean you're really friends with the Kyuubi, the strongest bijou? Karen asked skeptically. Yeah. I can't say we have always seen eye to eye. But we needed to cooperate during the war, and from that we began to understand each other. He's even started to lighten up a bit. The blonde answered as if the topic in question was no weirder than Karen asking the time of day. The kunoichi took a seat on the ground. It appeared that the conversation had made it to a point where the kunoichi could no longer stand. I don't believe this. You're talking about the Kyubi, the strongest of the Bijou, like it was some delinquent child that was simply misunderstood. Well, he's certainly not a child, but I would agree that Kurama is misunderstood. If we were further away from IWA, I would let you meet him. But when I use my fox cloak, the chakra is so strong it can be felt for miles. The Jinchuriki agreed casually. Karen opened her mouth to ask what his fox cloak was, but then an image crossed her mind of Naruto standing over her, deflecting a potentially fatal wound, glowing bright gold with what looked like flames licking his torso. That's what you used to defeat Asahi so quickly, she said, calming herself slightly. If Karen was being honest, she had been slightly worried that the Kyubi had been manipulating Naruto into this quest to leave the elemental nations. When she thought of that incident, however, she was somewhat reassured. His chakra was overwhelming, it suffocated the air, but it was still Naruto in control. That darkness, it must have been his bijou. Naruto was able to tame and befriend something so dark. Amazing, she realized. Alright, I think I get it, but you're still hurt. Here, bite down on my arm. It will heal you up good as new, she said, quickly exposing her arm, that was still riddled with slowly fading bite marks. This time it was Naruto's turn to gasp. Karen, what happened to your arms? He asked in concerned horror. It's alright, the bruises don't hurt. Well, not anymore, Karen admitted, seeing the look on her companion's face. This is why Sasuke wanted you in his group? Naruto asked. He had never felt hatred towards Sasuke. Sure, he had been angered by several things the ill-fated Uchiha had done, but despite all this he still considered the Uchiha a brother. Seeing Karen's arms bruised in such a way, however, was pushing him close to wishing the Uchiha was still alive just so he could kick his ass again. No, Sasuke wanted me for my tracking skills, this was just a bonus. Orochimaru, however, found my ability very useful. Most of these marks are still left over from me healing his experiments. Karen answered hesitantly. How long do the marks last? Naruto questioned quietly. A few months, these have almost fully faded. But each time I use the technique, the other marks darken slightly. It's been almost a year since I had arms without bite marks, she admitted. Don't use that anymore. Not unless it's an emergency. See, I am perfectly fine now. I heal fast. Something about being an Uzumaki plus having Kurama in me makes me heal from minor wounds in a few minutes, Naruto said, wiping the blood away from his face to reveal unblemished skin. I won't need to use that medical ability of yours. Besides, you're far too pretty to have such bruises all over your arms, Naruto said without thinking. Karen paused and blushed slightly. Did he just call me pretty? She asked herself, blissfully unaware that her heart had skipped a beat. Meanwhile, in Naruto's mind, Kurama was far less pleased about Naruto's compliment. I warned that fool not to get attached to this girl. I can only see this ending badly. Either she dies on the journey and Naruto is upset, she betrays him in some vain attempt to capture me, or Kami forbid, she ends up as his mate. I can see it now, a bunch of full-blooded Uzumaki kids running around inventing new seals to make my life miserable. Well, at least Naruto doesn't know how to use any sealing techniques that he can teach them. Actually, now that I think about it, seems odd that he doesn't. The perverted Toad and his parents were all seal masters, yet not once has anyone given Naruto any information on seals. Kurama thought apprehensively. It was needless to say that Kurama had not warmed up to Karen, and she would not be the fox's first choice when it came to Naruto's partner. Once Karen's blush subsided, she slowly found her feet and grabbed Naruto's arm to pull him up. Well, if you don't want me to use my healing jutsu, I am going to have to look at your wounds the old-fashioned way. There is a first aid kit upstairs, she said while pulling the blonde to his feet. I've almost healed. That's not really necessary, is it? Naruto asked. Probably not, but it's better to be safe than sorry. Besides, like you said yourself, we have a long day ahead of us. Last thing we need is you collapsing injured. Karen replied slightly smugly. Fine, I guess you're right, Naruto admitted and slowly made his way towards the stairs. They moved in silence, focusing on the steep steps softly illuminated by their torches. They stayed silent as they entered the living area of the cabin. Karen grabbed the old field medic kit that the IWA Shinobi had left behind. The contents were a lot like any normal first aid kit. However, there were some rather advanced-looking additions. A chakra scanner that simulated a standard diagnostic jutsu, while a second instrument applied an advanced healing salve to heal most minor wounds. I guess you should probably lie down on a table. I know enough medical jutsu to not need these instruments, but I might use them anyway to be on the safe side, Karen mused. Naruto paused before nodding. He slowly lay down on the large dining table. Do I need to take my top off? Naruto asked reluctantly. Karen paused, a small pink hue spread across her face, still she nodded quickly. Yes, I'll need to check to see if you have any broken ribs, she said in almost a whisper. What the hell is wrong with me? I have seen countless people without their shirts on. Hell, I have dissected a fair number. I can't fall apart because of something so simple. She lectured herself to regain some composure. Naruto removed his top slowly and soon came to realize just how cold the room really was. Almost immediately he began to feel goosebumps on his skin. He didn't complain, however, and closed his eyes waiting for the kunoichi to begin her work. He was confident that he was no longer injured at all. Still, he would humor Karen rather than be stuck in an argument about if he was hurt or not. You don't seem to be at all or surprised that I have Kurama sealed in me, or that I talked to him. Why? The question sparked Karen back into reality. Whether she had realized it or not, she had been in a daze exploring Naruto's bare chest. Huh. Oh, well, I already knew you were a Jinchuriki. Sasuke told me, and so did that masked man in the Akatsuki, so I knew for quite a while. As for you talking to the Kyuubi, well, to tell you the truth, that was a shock. But I can tell it's still you in control, so I don't mind in the slightest. I have no right to judge you on anything, not with some of the horrible things I have been forced to do in my life. Besides, you didn't have a choice in becoming the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, so how can anyone think less of you for that? Naruto opened his eyes a crack and raised an eyebrow. You are far more accepting than I would have thought, he admitted. Is it really that surprising? Look at the people I have had as teammates and my leaders. Jugo became a bloodthirsty monster. Sasuke had an unquenchable thirst for revenge. I don't think I need to go into all the twisted things that Orochimaru would do. When you have spent a life with people like that, a small thing like someone being a Jinchuriki isn't really all that overly shocking or disturbing, Karen answered. By now she was tracing the diagnostic equipment over his body very slowly. Kurama was now very lightly pumping a small amount of chakra through Naruto's body to keep him warm, as the intense snowstorm that had started the night before was still raging outside, making the room almost at freezing point. I guess if you see some of the worst of humanity, there is always less to shock you. Well, for once I am glad for that fact. It took me a long time to win over the people of Konoha. So it's nice to know that you have accepted me for who I am, Naruto said honestly. Karen smiled in response, but turned he focused to the medical scan she was performing. The red-haired kunoichi was in disbelief that no injuries had shown up. When she walked in on Naruto's training, he was so badly beaten he looked like he had replaced one of Lee and Guy's training posts. Yet no matter how careful she was with the scan, it had failed to pick anything up. I must say your healing rate is truly remarkable. I can't find anything wrong with you, she said, admitting defeat. Well, I rushed the process by channeling a small amount of nature chakra through my body, and Kurama can accelerate it with his chakra. It's really useful because I hate hospitals, Naruto admitted with a slight shiver. Karen giggled at the last statement. Please tell me you are not afraid of hospitals. Or is it needles you can't stand? Either way, I find it funny that someone so strong could feel uneasy about something like that. Naruto shook his head. I am not afraid of them. I just hate the waiting that Tsunade-chan and Sakura-chan always forced me to endure. It was so damn boring. Are we done? It's freezing in here without my top on. Besides, the sun is starting to rise, so we should get a move on. We should be able to cover twice as much distance through the tunnels as we would in all the snow. Karen nodded and passed the blonde his shirt and jacket. Yeah, I'm ready to go. Just need to get changed and then we can be off. Naruto nodded, and they both split up into their separate bedrooms to get ready for the next stage of their journey. Meanwhile, it was not only Naruto and Karen that were up before the sun rose. In IWA, a secret meeting was being held. In truth, this meeting had lasted several days, and so far had accomplished nothing. This is getting us nowhere. Enough time has passed since the war, yet unlike the other villages we have accomplished nothing. A tall man with dark brown hair, black eyes, and a rather bulbous nose said harshly. If that is how you feel, then perhaps you should pull out of the running to beat Tsuchikage then, Kitsuchi. A shorter bald man with ocean blue eyes declared. Kitsuchi folded his arms in defiance. I am running because I feel I am the right man to take IWA into any discussions with the other 4 villages about an alliance. I was selected as a general in the joint shinobi army for a reason. The other Kage trusts me. Who says we should agree to join any shinobi alliance anyway? We survived perfectly well on our own for over 100 years. Your father would say the same thing. An elderly woman with curly gray hair wearing rather official-looking robes in the traditional dark read that the IWA Shinobi War. We have lost over half of our shinobi during the war. It is not a given that we are the strongest village in the region. The other villages see that as well. That is why this alliance is important. Also, if we exclude ourselves from this, then we may be targeted in the future. Oanoki would have seen that. The joint Shinobi Alliance must go ahead with IWA included. Because of this, Kitsuchi is our best choice for the unnamed Tsuchikage. He is respected by the other villages and will have more pulling power when it comes to what IWA will put in and take from any alliance. An old man said. He seemed to be about the same age as Oanoki was, well into his 9th decade, but twice the height of the former Kage, to have one of the village elders cave to such an atrocity. Without Naruto we can establish ourselves as the major military force in the elemental nations. There is no need to join the other villages. The short bald man declared, and that is why you are not suitable to be the next Tsuchikage, Shuto. We will have saved the world just to have you undo all of our hard work. In the end, what would the difference be if the world bows to you over Madara Uchiha? Kitsuchi asked sternly. The difference is they will bow to IWA. The now named Shuto declared. The true weight of what he had said only dawned on him after it had left his mouth. The stress and fatigue of weeks of talks and the fall of the other candidates had finally gotten to him. That is enough. While I was hesitant about joining any alliance, I cannot sit by while you threaten another war on IWA so soon after the horrors of the 4th Shinobi War. The female elder declared solemnly. It seems your opposition has put his foot into his mouth, Kitsuchi. You were always the best choice. As Oanoki's son, you have grown up with his teachings. You are also one of, if not the strongest shinobi in the village. The other elder said firmly. Yes, the village is in no shape to be dragged into another war over something so futile as village superiority. Kitsuchi, you will be our Yandamed Tsuchikage. The elderly Kunoichi declared somewhat reluctantly. She still had her reservations about joining an alliance with the other villages, but with the other candidates having pulled out of the running or deemed unsuitable, her only choice was to agree that Kitsuchi was to be the next Kage of IWA. The daimyo will be thrilled that we have finally come to a decision on this matter. The other Kages will also be pleased, the elder man said. He was quite pleased with the outcome. He had supported Kitsuchi from the start. In his mind there was nobody better to take over Oanoki's work than his own son. He also supported the idea of a joint village alliance. Most of the shinobi population were in agreement with him on this fact. He was old, he had seen 4 great wars come and go in his lifetime and was in no hurry to see a 5th. The desire to live out his remaining days in peace were strong, so he knew the best chance that they had for such a life was to join the other village together and let old grievances be in the past. It matters little now, but the words I spoke a moment ago were not my actual thoughts. I have no desire to see the world brought back to war. Regardless, I concede defeat. Shuto declared calmly. It is good to know that you do not think that way, Shuto. However, as you have already guessed, we cannot ignore such statements. Kitsuchi, you will start as acting Tsuchikage immediately, and we will complete the process within a week to make an official declaration. You are both dismissed. The elderly man said. Well, I may have lost, but at least I get to go to sleep now. You have to go deal with all the paperwork that has amassed since the start of the war, Kitsuchi-sama. Shuto chuckled, patting the new Kage on the back as realization dawned on him as to what he had just gotten himself into. Later that day, in a poorly lit underground complex, a group of Konoha shinobi sat around a long table. Several objects sat in front of them. So she was definitely here then? Niji asked the group. No doubt about it. She must have used this space as either a staging ground or she stayed here until the supplies ran out. Kiba replied. I do not think she stayed here for long. Sai said calmly. Why is that, Sai? Niji questioned. The Stoikumbu pointed at a large map that was built into the wall. She came to this specific hideout for a reason. On the map several points were marked. If they were marked by Karen or not they couldn't tell. But what they could see was the exact location of the joint shinobi army headquarters in the Land of Lightning, the skeleton graveyard that Obito used to stage his attack, and also other locations that Naruto had been, including the Turtle Island. She was either hunting Naruto or marking areas to avoid. But if it was the second one, why would she risk coming this close to the Land of Lightning? Sai answered. You think she was hunting for Naruto-kun? Hinata asked. She was less than happy, to put it lightly, of the thought that someone might still be hunting the blonde. Sai nodded. His usual fake smiling mask was discarded, but rather than the fake smile the former root shinobi showed nothing. I would say the information points that way. The only question is, does she know that he has died, and how close to the joint shinobi headquarters did she travel? Orochimaru had a base in the Land of Lightning. That would be the best place to start the next stage of the search, but we are running out of time. He spoke as casually as the highly trained root umbu that he was. What do you mean we're running out of time? I didn't think this mission had a limit. Kiba questioned. Of course it has a limit. It was not given because it will last until we are recalled to the village. Niji explained. Then how do you know that we are running out of time? Kiba asked. To the Inuzuka's surprise, it was Hinata who answered first. That's because Kakashi-sama did not know how long it would take to arrange Naruto-kun's funeral. He let us go until they were ready, but we will be called back so we do not miss it. Hinata-sama is right. Sai was on Naruto's team. I have been expecting to be called back for the past week. Hokage-sama must be delaying the funeral for some reason. My guess is in hopes that Tsunade-sama wakes up. Niji agreed. Then what are we waiting for? Let's get moving. It will take a few days to get to the land of lightning. Kiba replied. The small group from Konoha nodded in agreement before briskly heading for the exit. Meanwhile, while this tunnel is so long, Naruto spoke as the underground passageway opened for the two teenage Uzumaki. It makes sense. They build a straight path to save time in moving from outpost to outpost. It's dark, but with a path like this we could cover the same distance in one day that we would in 3 outside. It is also considerably warmer down here. Karen mused. I guess that makes sense. Did you get a copy of the map? The blonde asked. Of course I did. Last thing I want is us getting lost down here. The red-haired Kunoichi answered. Naruto nodded and took several steps forward into the dark tunnel. Then we're all set for the next stage of our journey. 2 bad things will become far more difficult after this. Chapter 12. The Insurmountable Peaks. Point 2. It had been a long day for Naruto and Karen. They may not have had any issues with difficult terrain that may have occurred crossing the mountains, but it was pitch black in the tunnel. They had to make extra care not to get turned around. Fortunately, there were maps carved into the wall whenever they found a junction. Even so, all they could tell was that they were heading north. They guessed that the fastest way through would be to go as far north as they could in the tunnels before they traveled the rest of the way over the insurmountable peaks. How long have we been walking for? Karen asked, with a weary sigh. Naruto shrugged. The truth was that in the pitch-black passageway there was no way of telling what the time of day was. I don't know. It could be 2 minutes, it could be 2 days. We have traveled pretty far north, so with any luck we should be getting close to the end soon. He said once he realized that Karen couldn't see him shrug. Well, my guess is you have been walking for at the very least a full day now. If you were by yourself and moving at top speed, we could have been far further north by now. I would say we would have hit the halfway point in this mountains. Kurama said casually. Maybe, but we wouldn't have found this underground tunnel. The blonde retorted. Oh, let's rejoice we have a tunnel. I would rather be safe in the knowledge that your so-called travel companion isn't trying to kill you. But what do I know? I'm only hundreds of years old. The fox scoffed. Just because you're old doesn't mean that you're smart. Naruto replied. This coming from someone who has failed almost every written exam in his life. Kurama laughed. Naruto's face vaulted in defeat. I may not be book smart, but I can tell when someone is trying to make up for their mistakes. This journey is far more dangerous for Karen than it is for me. Thanks to you I can't freeze to death, I won't get sick from some disease. Despite this, she decided to follow me anyway. Naruto reasoned. The choice between a big risk and certain death isn't very difficult. Kurama said sternly. Naruto was confused by this statement. What do you mean? You remember why she decided to join you, right? No matter how long she hid, it was only a matter of time before shinobi from one of the 5 great nations found her. When that happened, she would have been executed faster than she could deny the fact that she was a member of the Akatsuki. Given the choice, it's no wonder she decided to follow you. You were on the run as well, and unlike that poor excuse for a kunoichi, had a plan. So now put yourself in her shoes. You either risk traveling over a mountain range that has never been crossed before, or you hide and hope that you are never discovered by a shinobi for the rest of your life. Kurama explained. Naruto was about to reply when he was brought back to reality by Karen. Hey, looks like we're at the end of the line, she said, pointing to where a small light seemed to emanate in the distance. Naruto let out a silent sigh of relief that the light was dim and still far away, because after being in the pitch black with only torchlight for the last 24 hours, his eyes were not accustomed to light, making the small speck of sunlight difficult to look at directly. Shouldn't there be an outpost here? Naruto asked. Karen nodded in agreement. Yes, but it seems that something has happened to this one. The insurmountable peaks are considered extremely dangerous for a reason. It's not that hard to believe that a landslide or a storm could destroy one of the buildings. I was kinda hoping for one more night in a bed. Looks like it's not to be. Still, we have our tent and thermal sleeping bags, so we will at least be warm. But we will be postponing our stop until we find somewhere to set up a camp. Naruto sighed. Then why not just rest here? Karen asked. I've had enough of this darkness. It would be nice to see some sunlight. Besides, we shouldn't stop here just because it's convenient. It would be best to at least see what time of day it is. Naruto answered, I guess you're right. It will be too dangerous to travel at night time from now on, so it's best to make the most of the light we are given. That said, to be on the safe side, we should remember to find a campsite early so we're not forced to set up in the dark. Karen replied. They approached the edge of the source of light, that seemed to be blinding them from its brightness. So much so that when they reached the edge they couldn't see the edge of the tunnel, but someone could. Naruto, stop! Kurama yelled. Naruto did as he was told and grabbed Karen's arm as she stepped in front of him. Karen screamed as she almost pulled him along with her as she fell, but Naruto's body strength saved them both, channeling chakra into his feet to prevent sliding. Whoa, easy there. Thanks for that, Kurama. You really saved us. He sighed. Don't mention it. Just wait for your eyes to adjust before you move on, the large fox said calmly. Naruto pulled Karen up to safety, and she immediately clung to his jacket, shaking from the shock. It's all right, let's just calm down and see what we're dealing with, he said, lightly squeezing the kunoichi to help calm her down. How did why you know? Karen stuttered. Kurama told me. Looks like he saved both of us. Naruto answered, taking a seat on the ground, his own heartbeat still racing from the fright. Slowly his eyes began adjusting to the light, the white blur starting to take some noticeable shapes. He could see the outline of several mountains against the white background. After that the world came into view quickly. At the edge of the tunnel where Naruto and Karen were sitting still panting heavily, a massive gorge stretched out in front of them. At the far side they saw what remained of a small hut, an end of the tunnel. What the hell happened here? Naruto gasped in wonder. It looks like the mountain collapsed, taking the tunnel with it. Karen replied, looking equally as stunned. So what do you think our options are? The blonde asked. He looked over the edge of the crater, but he could not see the bottom. It's way too far to jump. We could always walk around against the wall. It's bound to end at some point. Karen suggested. Well, I have one idea, but it's a bit of a risk. If I channel some futon chakra into my kunai and wrap a rope around the handle, I will be able to anchor a rope to the other side of the gorge. We tie the other end to this side and use the rope as a bridge, Naruto suggested. Karen paused. She was silently weighing up the positives and negatives as well as how much she trusted Naruto to be able to pull this off successfully. It is the fastest way across, and there is no telling how far we would have to go out of the way to get to the other side otherwise. But if it doesn't take the weight, then we would definitely die. She let out a frustrated sigh before nodding. All right, I'll go along with it. I hope you know what you're doing, she said eventually, if not somewhat reluctantly. It will work. I'll cross first and leave a clone behind. That way, if the worst happens and it won't take the weight, it will be me risking myself. Then I'll be on both sides and able to pull you across should anything happen while you are crossing, Naruto said reassuringly. Karen nodded in acceptance as Naruto threaded a long rope through the ring at the end of the handle of his kunai, making sure to tie it secure, not testing it several times. I am going to use a little bit of your chakra to enhance the strength of my throw. We should be far enough away from civilization by now, right? I would think so. There is a gap around the size of the land of fire between where we are and Iwa, so my guess is that a small amount of my chakra won't be felt, Kurama guessed. Naruto stood up, forcing his futon chakra through the kunai. He silently noted how much more difficult the process was than when attempting the same thing with the Suma's chakra blades. Must be the difference between this and chakra conducting metal. Naruto sighed as he looked for a stable-looking target to anchor the rope. Aim for the roof of the tunnel on the other side. It is the best bet on not collapsing from the weight, Kurama informed his host. Naruto nodded silently, thanking the fox for his suggestion while taking aim. At the moment he threw the blade, Naruto's eyes glowed a slitted red color for the smallest of seconds, but that was enough for Karen to feel the overwhelming presence of the oppressive chakra. Even knowing that Naruto was fully in control and the Bijou would not try to escape and kill them didn't make the experience any less terrifying and exhilarating at the same time. The kunai crossed the gap in under a second and embedded deeply into the rock of the other side. All right, I did it, Naruto cheered, giving the rope a few tugs to check the stability. Once satisfied, he created a clone and tied the loose end of the rope to the edge of the cave and jumped across, grabbing the rope with his hands so he hung down like he was using the monkey bars in the playgrounds back in Konoha. Slowly he edged his way across the gorge. This place smells vile. It was not caused by a natural disaster. Something or someone caused this destruction. But it was done such a long time ago I cannot tell what did it, Kurama informed the blonde. Well, hey race, hoping we don't run into whatever it was, Naruto replied. As he was on his own, he didn't mind talking to the QB out loud. There was a powerful wind blowing that shook Naruto as he slowly crossed the gap. To counter this effect, Naruto channeled chakra into his hands, which allowed him to pull himself across the rope much faster. It took him less than a minute to cross the gap, and he let out an audible sigh of relief upon his feet touching the ground. "Alright, Karen, it's safe, come on over, just channel your chakra into your hands so you don't slip off," he called out. Unfortunately, thanks to the wind and darkness of the cave, Karen could barely see Naruto, let alone hear him. It took him longer than he was proud to admit to realize that she couldn't hear him. Upon making that realization, he made a clone, letting it dispel instantly. On the other side of the valley, Naruto's clone received the information from his clone dispelling on the other side. "You can go now. Boss made it to the other side." "Oh, and use chakra on your hands, it makes it easier to cross," the clone said. Karen nodded. She was very nervous, and it became obvious as she hesitated. She looked hesitantly at rope that was swaying from the intense wind that seemed to be getting stronger by the second. "Relax, Karen, you can do this. Besides, boss made to the other side, so if anything happens he'll save you." "How can you be so sure?" she asked. Naruto's clone laughed with a chuckle. "That's easy. It's because I am him, and I know that I wouldn't let a friend fall if I could help it." "Really, I thought you were smart. You should have known that much about clones already." Karen turned around quickly and jumped. The words of encouragement took away the fear of falling quite effectively. "What am I doing? This is insane. I'm hanging over what would appear to be a bottomless pit supported only by a thin rope held up by a kunai, and what remains of a tunnel's support beam. Why the hell did I have to listen to him? And why does he always make me feel so safe all the time? This is definitely not a safe position. Hell, even if I do cross this damn chasm, things will just become more and more dangerous, yet I continue to go along with this," she thought while edging across the rope. "She sure is taking a long time. I do hope she's safe." Naruto sighed while he watched the kunoichi hanging from the rope. "You could always just cut the rope. She may not die, you know. She can go her own way. Once she crosses over here, there is no turning back. She will travel with you until she inevitably freezes to death as we travel deeper into the mountains. When you think about it, it's really for the best," Kurama replied. "Sorry, Kurama. I know you don't trust her, but you know me well enough to never think that I would abandon someone like that," he replied. "I know. As much as it pains me to say it, I have come to accept the fact that she is going to be with us for the foreseeable future," Kurama answered with a huff. Meanwhile, the tracking team from Konoha arrived at the entrance to the Joint Shinobi Task Force headquarters. "Wow, I am surprised this place is still up and running," Kiba said in wonder. "Yes, a shadow staff is still in place taking care of most inter-village correspondence. Each of the 5 Kages have left representatives that they trust to organize the alliance to the point that the Kages can decide on the future of the alliance." Sai informed the group. "So who has Kakashi-sama left in charge?" Kiba asked. Kiba's answer came in the most horrifying way that any man could think of, the angry yell of their mother. "Kiba, what the hell are you doing here?" Some Inuzuka, the head of the Inuzuka clan, yelled from a fair way away, her large ninja hound standing by her side imposingly. Kiba paled and seemed to shrink, wishing his question could have been left unanswered. Sai, being the ever-observant man that he was, took out his little book and started writing down the human behavior. "It seems that it is not just Shikamaru who fears his mother. This is a common occurrence among male shinobi," he said with his unnerving smile plastered across his face. Some Inuzuka marched over to the tracking group as they entered the complex that they had spent several weeks calling home. "I wasn't expecting any teams from Konoha today. What's the meaning of this?" she asked with some authority. "We're tracking an escaped kunoichi who was the last member of the Akatsuki. We have some evidence that she may have attempted to come here in search of her target," Niji informed the Inuzuka head. "Akatsuki, huh? You would think that they would all be dead by now." "So who was the target?" Some asked. "Naruto Uzumaki," Sai said expressionlessly. Some arched an eyebrow in interest but remained quiet, hoping to hear more. "We believe that she was looking for Naruto in hopes of finding Sasuke. Or she was hoping to remove him as an obstacle for the Uchiha," Sai added, for once correctly reading another person's body language. Some nodded in understanding. It wouldn't have been all that hard to sneak into camp during the final stages of the war. So many people came in wounded or without their identification. Still, someone watching the gates must have seen her enter. It was still policy to let the guards see your face when returning from the front lines, she said confidently. "That may be, but how can you be sure that the person on gate duty is still here?" Niji questioned. "All shinobi posted as guards for headquarters are still here on duty until the future of the alliance has been decided. If that girl was here, we will know," Some insisted. She turned to walk towards the command tent marked with the symbol for all 5 nations. Follow me, we can call all the guards in one at a time for questioning. Oh, and Kiba, I hope you were not planning on leaving before telling me how everything is going with the clan back in Konoha. North of the Land of Earth, Karen had successfully crossed the valley and the pair now stood in what remained of the last IWA outpost. For a while Naruto had wondered why they had stopped exploring and tunneling further north, but he now had his answer. Deep shelves of ice made the terrain appear like massive blade protruded into the sky. In contrast, deep cuts in the earth from landslides and avalanches made the ground unstable. While Karen gasped at the sight, she had seen mountain ranges before but nothing as imposing as this. Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? Naruto agreed. By now the sun was getting low in the sky, and the temperature was dropping considerably. Maybe we should make camp here for the night? The cabin might be useless as shelter, but at least we know the ground is stable, Karen suggested. She shivered from the cold wind on her face. Naruto hesitated. If he was being honest, he wanted to move further north while they still had some light. I agree with her. Up here, the weather can change incredibly quickly. We also have no idea how long it will be before we can find another suitable place to make camp, Kurama said, adding his thoughts on the matter. Yeah, I guess you're right, Naruto said, answering both his companions. Naruto took off his backpack and withdrew a sealing scroll and summoned up a pre-made tent. The tent was quite large judging on camping standards. Naruto had made sure to get the largest one that he could so that he and Karen would have their own space. It also gave them an extra room so Karen could get dressed in private. It's not much, but I guess this is home now, he sighed. I'm sure it's fine. It might be a little cramped, but it's big enough for the 2 of us, Kane said kindly. It's designed to keep heat and to survive in the coldest climates, but that doesn't mean that it's perfect. I have few heaters that run off chakra to keep us warm, Naruto said, opening the front of a tent while summoning a small heater that he placed in the center of the room that held 2 futons, one on each side of the tent. Karen shut the tent behind her. She then lay back on her bed to relax. It had been a long day, and she was only now realizing just how exhausted she was. Kami, my arms are sore from pulling myself across that damn valley, she sighed while stretching out on her futon. Yeah, unfortunately it's not going to get any easier on us. Still, we can make it through this, the blonde replied. What do you think we will find on the other side of these mountains? I mean, they can't stretch on forever, Karen asked, rubbing her arms. I have been relaxing too much. A small thing like that shouldn't tire me out. Maybe the altitude up here is getting to me. IWA. The sun had set a few hours ago, yet Kitsuchi was still in his new office. He hadn't left it since he'd taken over as Tsuchikage. He had only had 3 hours sleep in the last 2 days, and that was interrupted by his new assistant bringing in a new set of papers for him to sign. Kitsuchi sighed in frustration. The elders had left him days of paperwork to catch up on. He was already regretting his decision to become Tsuchikage. So much damn work, he grumbled, signing another mission request form. The door to his office opened, and 2 shinobi walked in holding a piece of paper. Both wore white lab coats over their standard IWA jounin outfits. Kitsuchi immediately groaned at the sight of the 2. Kitsuchi-sama, we found something, one of the shinobi said urgently. What is it? Kitsuchi asked. The last thing he needed was some emergency to happen right now. We're scientists working in the Chakra Sensing and Development Department. I am Inaka and this is my partner Kuda. A few days ago we picked up a massive spike in chakra up north. It was far too large for any normal shinobi. The only thing we have on record that came close have been the bijou. The scientist said. The urgency was still in his voice. That's impossible. The bijou are gone. The only one whose location is known would be the Hachibi. Are you sure of this? The new Tsuchikage asked. We can't be sure. The spike in chakra only lasted for a few seconds. We have been attempting to find a chakra signature that it would sync with, but nothing in our database comes close. The other scientist, Kuda, explained. Where in the north was it? Kitsuchi asked. We have been able to pinpoint its origin to just outside of Awame, the northmost village in the land of Earth, Inaka said honestly. Kitsuchi nodded, rubbing his chin. Yes, I know the place. When I was young we held survival exercises using Awame as a base camp. And before my father became Tsuchikage it was a major outpost for our shinobi. Yes, we are aware of this. That is why we would like to request 2 shinobi to form a team and accompany us to the site. We wish to test for any lingering traces of chakra so that if it should appear again it would be less of a surprise, and will give us our best chance at capturing the source. If it is the early signs of a bijou reforming after its container has been killed, then it is invaluable research material. Inaka said eagerly. Kitsuchi was never really big on science. Like his father, he was a fighter, but he knew when he had taken the job as Tsuchikage that he would have to listen to requests that didn't necessarily interest him. Very well, I will grant you permission to investigate the chakra spike. You have tomorrow to prepare and 2 weeks to complete your assessment. However, if it does turn out to be a bijou, then you are to consider the information as classified and return here. Is that understood? The new Tsuchikage ordered. Hi Tsuchikage-sama. Both scientists chorused with a small hint of fear in their voices. Kitsuchi let out a satisfied grunt. This was the first time that he was able to give an order as a kage, and he had to admit that it felt rather good. Good, you have your orders, when you find the 2 men you wish to accompany you on this mission, he said, turning his attention back to the still staggeringly large pile of papers he needed to finish. A few moments later he realized that the 2 scientists were still standing in front of him. You're dismissed, he said firmly. The pair of shinobi nodded feverishly before scampering out the door. Wow, you sure had everyone frightened of you, old man. I just hope I can do half as good a job in running this place as you did. Joined Shinobi HQ. The Konoha tracking team had spent the last few hours interviewing various guards from all the different villages. Most of them had attempted to be helpful, but it was of little surprise that they had not seen anyone that matched the picture they had of Karen. The only piece of usable information they had received so far, from what the trackers could tell, had come an elderly jounin from Kiri. All he had said was, the members of that clan all look the same, don't they? Used to be hundreds of them walking around, before their home was destroyed. What are you talking about? Have you seen this girl or not? Who cares about that other stuff? Kiba yelled angrily. Kiba, be quiet. I am well aware of what this man is talking about. Time was that red hair was a common sight in Konoha. Some said sternly that it would be. Best of friends, the Senju and Uzumaki clan. The Kiri guard said in a nonchalant manner. All of the teens' eyes widened at this piece of information. Even Sai, who had been taking down everything that had been said for reference, paused with his quill for a split second. She's an Uzumaki? She looks nothing like Naruto-kun. Hinata gasped. That's because Naruto-sama took his father's traits. Rather rare for any Uzumaki to not have red hair, was a symbol of their clan, and because of the powerful life-affirming chakra that gave them the title of the clan of longevity regardless of parentage, 90% had red hair. The only ones that didn't were the children born from shinobi with equally powerful chakra, the children of the Shodai Hokage for one. The guard said. He seemed all too happy to keep talking about this subject. You know an awful lot about this stuff. Some said. She passed the accusatory eye over the man. Konoha and Kiri may be somewhat of allies at the moment, but it was possible that he was once a spy. Oh, I work in the Bloodline Research Department in Kiri. As a non-combatant, all I am good for here is working at the gates. Anyway, part of my work is researching potential bloodlines by searching out particular ninja with sets of unique skills that may be passed down to the next generation. I haven't always been proud of my work. During the Bloodline Wars, we were tasked with finding people in Kiri that contained bloodline-carrying genes and exposing them. But now I can make amends by finding surviving clan members and binding them together again. The guard said. As fascinating and horrifying as that is, we have a mission to continue on with here. Now, if you don't mind, answer our original question. Have you seen the kunoichi in this photo? Niji said with a slight scowl. The Kiri shinobi nodded and picked up the picture, examining it closely. I can't say that I have seen her, but those eyes. Scarlet red eyes, I did see them. The person was wearing a hood and walking from the center of the camp at the end of the war. I thought whoever it was just didn't want to see the bodies of Naruto-sama and the Uchiha they brought back with him. If you're right, then that means she was here, so one of the guards would have had to see her face in order to let her into the camp. It seems you were of more help than we had expected, Niji declared. Oh, it's no problem. The Uzumaki clan was one of the most unique clans to have existed, so I was bound to know something. The elderly man said while beginning to stand. If you don't mind, what do you mean by that? Hinata asked in a timid manner. The guard smiled and sat back down. Well, for one, every generation seemed to have a bunch of children with unique abilities, that while similar could not be considered a bloodline. Occasionally one of them would appear with abilities that made no sense at all. A famous case was Kushina Uzumaki. She had the ability to suppress bijou just like the Shodai Hokage. I never saw the technique, but from our records she could summon chains that she would make from her chakra. Such an ability is unheard of. Only yin-yang release should be able to achieve something like that. Is it really that special? Kiba asked skeptically. Of course it is. Some said, whacking her son lightly across the back of his head to punish his stupidity. Yin-yang release is creating something from nothing. only the Rinnegan and to a lesser degree Sharingan have been known to have that power. Sim only knew this from reading the well-documented reports post-war on the enemy's abilities, precisely. Although it could be said that the Shodai's Mokutan abilities were similar. However, it was caused by an overwhelming amount of Yang Chakra. The same overwhelming physical power that Naruto-sama exerted when he used the Kyuubi's chakra. The reported effect he had on the Zetsu clone army as well as other Mokutan jutsu proves that fact, the Kiri ninja said happily. So what happened to Kushina Uzumaki? If she was so amazing, why weren't we told about her? Kiba asked. Surprisingly, it was Sai that answered this time. She died. And you do not know of her, because they didn't want people to know about her. Sounds like Danzo was not too fussed about keeping secrets from his men. Some huffed in annoyance. As leader of the Inuzuka clan, she was an extremely loyal shinobi. She had always seen Danzo and his root ninja as unnecessary, and sole power of the shinobi in Konoha should have gone to the Hokage. We were not permitted to give away secrets, or talk about Danzo-sama thanks to the seal he placed on our tongues. It stands to reason he felt no misgivings in talking about village secrets. Sai replied with his fake smile firmly in place. Hey, what village secret are you talking about? Kiba asked. Sim sighed, knowing that it would be easier to just tell them. The law has been removed, so we can now talk about it now. But that does not mean that we will, she said harshly. Her features softened slightly at the downhearted look on her son's face. Bijou can't be killed, you know that, right? She sighed. Yes, that is why Yandame-sama sealed the Kyuubi into Naruto-kun, Hinata said. Sim nodded approvingly. That's right, but that was only the final part of the story. Naruto was the third Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi in Konoha. You mean that there were 2 Kyuubi Jinchuriki before Naruto? I wonder who they were. If Naruto was anything to go on, I bet the others were really amazing. Kiba said. They were. But that is enough for now. We may be an allied village, but giving sensitive history away to shinobi from another nation could still be considered treason. Even if he does know most of it anyway. Sim replied. I understand completely. I hope your search goes well, but don't get your hopes up. Fantastic sensing abilities the Uzumaki clan had, couldn't sneak up on a trained one if they were blind, deaf, and dumb. The Kiri ninja said as he left the Konoha command tent. Obviously he never spent any time with Naruto then. Kiba chuckled once he was gone. Actually, upon completing his senjutsu training, Naruto became an incredibly skilled sensor ninja. Even my Kikai beetles couldn't get close without him detecting them. Shino said, speaking for the first time. Kiba shrugged, passing the information off as nothing important. Anyway, now that he's gone, tell us about the other Kyuubi Jinchuriki. Very well. I'll tell you. After you find someone with a solid lead on that target of yours. Don't get sidetracked. Sim said impatiently, and walked outside to grab the next guard they had waiting for questioning. Chapter 13. Secrets and Discoveries. So is there anyone else? We have been asking people questions for days now. Kiba yelled in frustration. His patience had been wearing thin for a while now, and like most adolescent Inuzuka clan members had a very hard time in situations where they had to be calm and wait. Don't be so impatient, Kiba. This camp needed hundreds of guards because of how large it was. Or do you think that it's easy to secure and organize well over 50,000 people? Sim replied, scolding her son. No, but I thought we were almost done with that guy that told us Karen was a Uzumaki. That was a day ago, and since then we haven't discovered anything useful at all. The younger Inuzuka sighed, his head pounding against the table. And you still haven't told us about the Uzumaki clan, or the other Kyuubi Jinchuriki yet, he added, voice muffled by the wood under his face. A needless distraction, focus on the task at hand. Shino droned. Niji and Sai nodded in agreement. Our mission comes first. There's no telling how long we have left before Hokage-sama calls us back to the village. Sai said in agreement. That is true, but it did seem really interesting. To know about Naruto-kun's family, that is. Hinata said timidly. Despite how much the young Hyuga heiress had grown as a kunoichi, she still struggled to speak her mind when opposed by her cousin, especially when they were on a mission where he outranked her. Then we best find the information we need. Niji replied before turning to Shino. Can you send the next pair in? He asked the stoic Abirame. Shino answered wordlessly with a nod that was almost unnoticed while he wore his hood. Soundlessly he opened the door, and in walked 2 people that the group were surprised that they hadn't seen earlier. Izumo and Kotetsu. Despite being highly skilled combat shinobi, the 2 best friends were almost always placed on guard duty in Konoha, and it seemed that here was not all that different. Wow, hey, it's you guys. I thought you would all be back in Konoha by now. Izumo said, happy to see a familiar face. When they told us they were questioning all the guards, I thought something big must have gone down. I'm glad to see it's you guys and not some hard ass like Ibiki. Kotetsu added, shivering from the thought of Konoha's top interrogation expert. So, what's up? Why did you guys come all the way out here? Izumo asked, taking a seat in front of the large desk, his partner following suit not long after. We're looking for someone, a criminal. We have reason to believe that they were here at the end of the war, disguised as a joint shinobi solider. Niji said assertively. That explains why you are talking to the guards. The end of the war was pandemonium, all the injured and weary entering from every entrance. Kotetsu sighed. We still checked everyone's face as they came in, as we were ordered, but that doesn't mean people couldn't slip through the cracks. Izumo added, trying to assure the tracking group that they had indeed done their jobs properly. That is good to know, in that case. Niji slid the picture of Karen across the table to the two shinobi. Have you seen her? The Hyuga Jounin asked calmly. The two looked at the photo for a few seconds, then to each other. Yeah, we saw her. They said together. What, really? Kiba said eagerly. They both nodded their heads in response. Yes, she came in with a group of soldiers from IWA and Suna at the end of the war. She was giving some of the wounded men first aid. Kotetsu informed the group. Did you by chance see her leave? It would have been on the same day, but after they brought Naruto's body back. Sai said calmly. Well, we weren't exactly at our best after Naruto was brought back. Let me think for a minute, Kotetsu answered. He sat still for a few moments, but eventually opened his mouth again to speak. I believe so. I remember a girl around her age leaving. She definitely had the red hair, but I couldn't see her face to know for sure. Did you see where she went? Kiba asked, getting excited to be closing in on a fresh lead. Well, I can't be sure, but it looked like she was heading west. But that gives you most of the elemental nations to work with. Izumo sighed, rubbing the back of his neck in frustration. Yeah, however you look at it, that seems like it would be a tough one to find now. The trail surely would have gone cold by now. So who is this girl? She doesn't look to be all that strong, and from what we saw she was more of a medic than a fighter. Kotetsu said, looking down at the photo of the young Kunoichi, an ally of Sasuke Uchiha and one of the members of the Akatsuki responsible for attacking the new Raikage before the war. Sai said calmly, Wow, didn't think we would see someone like that left after the war. I hope you find her then. Kotetsu whistles, somewhat impressed by Karen's notoriety. It's not like she will have anywhere to go. Once we are ordered back to Konoha, her face will be in every village from here to Suna. Sai said calmly, You're acting like we're not going to find her, Sai. We're the best tracking team in Konoha. Finding one girl is going to be no problem. Kiba said, as confident as ever. The chances of us finding her now are incredibly remote. Logically, the trail would have run cold a long time ago. The best chance we would have at finding her would be, as Sai said, to inform the general public and prevent her from seeking refuge in any village, especially the hidden villages. If they know that all 5 of the great shinobi villages are after her head, then harboring someone that dangerous would not be an option. Shino said, You're supposed to be on my side, Shino. What type of teammate are you? Kiba grumbled bitterly. Sides are irrelevant at times like this. It is also incorrect to say that we are the best tracking team in Konoha when the Umbu Hunter Ninja squads outrank us considerably, as well as having obtained Umbu training in the art of tracking missing ninja. Shino retorted. Maybe Shino is right, but we should perhaps check out the scene of Naruto-kun's fight with Sasuke. It's possible that she went there after she left the camp. Hinata suggested. I don't know why she would. If her goal was Naruto or Sasuke, they were both here. Niji replied. Perhaps Hinata is right. I read in a book that often to cope with a loss, people seek answers and closure. It could be reasonable to think that our target wanted to know how Sasuke died. Sai said with a small smile. The rest of the group were completely stunned. They may not have known Sai for all that long, but during the time that they had known him, he had never once had an accurate reading on human emotions, yet this time what he was saying actually made some form of sense. Surprisingly, it was Kiba who recovered quickest. I suppose it can't hurt, let's check it out. He said, relieved to finally have a new goal in mind. It's too late to set out tonight, but tomorrow morning we will check out the battle site. Oh, and you can go now, Izumo, Kotetsu, Niji said, giving the 2 elder shinobi a nod as thanks for their help. Konoha, the village had been quiet for the past few days. Kakashi had almost finished the preparations for Naruto's funeral. They had returned to the sending shinobi out on missions outside of the village and the land of fire in general. All in all, the Rokudame Hokage had but one real problem on his mind, the currently still unconscious Godame Hokage that was lying in a high-security hospital room. Kakashi was already fearing the worst for the slug Sannin. She had been in her coma for months now and showed no signs of waking. That was until a few moments earlier. Tsunade's eyes fluttered open, not that she could see anything. The room she was in was pitch black. Only a small light from a heart rate monitor blinked. The elderly Kunoichi tried to sit up but stopped when she felt the uncomfortable tube she had sticking into her body. How long was I out? By the looks of things, they have been feeding me through a damn tube. How embarrassing, she thought, slightly sickened by the sensation as she removed the tubes and wires, knowing full well that it would send whatever poor sap they had working on her current floor running. And let me guess, yep, mostly naked as well. And worst of all, my genjutsu broke, she said to herself, gazing at her aged hand. She hated people to think that she was weak, much less an old hag, as Naruto would sometimes affectionately call her. Stumbling out of bed, the former Hokage shuffled to the edge of the room. Her muscles were stiff from not having moved for weeks on end. Finding the far wall, she began shuffling her hands across in either direction, feeling her way across. It wasn't long before she found what she was looking for, a small indentation and loose fabric. She opened the window blinds of the window without delay and peered out, releasing a sigh of relief when she realized that she was in Konoha. The sun was just setting and a dark red glow covered the Hokage monument. Behind Tsunade, the door burst open and in bundled not only Sakura but also Shizen. "Tsunade-sama!" They both yelled with unbridled joy. Tsunade passed them both a semi-irritated look. "This is a hospital. You have patients to think about. Now I'm exhausted. Bring me some proper food. If you even think of giving me the stuff they give the patients at the hospital, I will have you both on guard duty for the next year," she said sternly, leaving no impression that she was joking. "At once, Tsunade-sama. After all that's happened, I am just glad you're back with us," Sakura said. She had to wipe a tear from her eye as the reality of the fact Tsunade had awoken was just setting in. Tsunade waited for Sakura to leave before turning to Shizen, who she just realized was hugging the buxom Hokage like she would disappear if she ever let go. "It's nice to see you too, Shizen, but I would like to go sit down, and you are making that rather difficult." Shizen paled before blushing a crimson color in embarrassment. "Sorry, Tsunade-sama." She panicked, letting go of her best friend and master, backing away a few feet to give Tsunade some space. "So much has happened while you were unconscious. I don't know where to start," she said timidly, knowing at some point she would have to tell the last Senju that her adoptive little brother had died. Tsunade shrugged and took a seat on the end of her bed. Now that some light could get in, she could easily navigate her room. "Well, I am sure I can be caught up to speed. I take it we won the war, seeing as nobody is in some vegetative state, paralyzed from that psychopath's genjutsu." "Hi, we won, but not without casualties," Sijun admitted, slightly downhearted. "That is the way with any war. But hopefully this one will be the last that I have to see. There has already been far too much killing for my liking." Tsunade sighed. "Kakashi-sama has taken over as Hokage. We didn't know when or if he would ever wake up, so there was no choice," Shizen informed her master. "Hey, that's not so bad. Kakashi will be a fine Hokage. I'm just surprised that they didn't choose the damn brat. He's easily the strongest shinobi. But he is still perhaps too young to run a village," Tsunade said, suppressing a small snigger at the thought. "That wouldn't be possible even if Kakashi-sama had refused to become Hokage," Shizen said apprehensively. Tsunade could sense that there was something that she needed to know, and her gaze immediately hardened. "What happened?" It was less of a question and more of an outright demand for answers. Shizen flinched slightly, knowing what was coming. At the end of the war, Naruto-kun was able to sneak out of the camp and he went after Sasuke. Tsunade's fists clenched. She was told by Kakashi about what Naruto said would happen if they ever fought each other. "He didn't make it back?" she asked, although she already knew the answer. "No, it appears that they killed each other," Shizen replied weakly. Tsunade's voice held no emotion. It was a blank canvas, but her insides were in turmoil. She felt as if the world had begun to drown. "Where's his body?" she asked passively. "It's in the morgue, being preserved with seals. They're holding a funeral for him, inviting people from all over the elemental nations. Everyone is saying that it will lead to a new age of peace for the elemental nations," Shizen said. She knew that the small silver lining around the dark cloud that was Naruto's death would not be enough. "I want to see the body," Tsunade said firmly. She would not believe that he was really gone until she examined his body herself. "It would be just like him. If he thought he could save the world, he wouldn't mind dying. But I can just feel that something is amiss. Maybe I am kidding myself, but until I am 100% certain that Naruto is dead, I won't simply give up, not like I did with Dan and Nawaki. I can't let you do that right now. You are weak and need rest and plenty of food to help you recover your chakra. Stay in bed for a day or two, and talk to Kakashi-sama," Shizen pleaded, trying to calm her master. As impatient as Tsunade was, she knew when Shizen was right. Very well, but I want to examine his body personally. She huffed in reluctant acceptance. It was at that moment that Sakura returned, her arms filled with takeaway from what seemed like every restaurant in Konoha. I didn't know what you wanted, Tsunade-sama, so I brought a little of everything, she panted. Sakura had ran at full speed around Konoha, not stopping for anything except to pick up the many orders she had been placing. Joint Shinobi Task Force HQ. The tracking team sat around a large table in the dining hall reserved for Konoha shinobi after the war. It was not mostly empty, just a few essential shinobi that were left behind to keep relations with the other villages strong during their temporary break in talks surrounding the formation of a permanent alliance. This might be the last time we come here. Not that I mind, the food is terrible. Kiba sighed while taking a seat. The young Inuzuka was restless. It was rather tough being in a group with a bunch of people that rarely spoke. If the alliance talks go well, then this place will become a major outpost. We may have to stay here for months on end. Sai replied flatly. The former root ninja didn't care about the taste of the food. He had spent so long without any real emotions. To dislike a place because you disliked the cuisine was pointless. It will also mean time spent in all the other villages. A principal part of the blueprint for the alliance is having ambassadors, high-ranking ninja, go on long-term exchanges to other villages, to build friendships and ease village tensions. Niji explained. How do you both know so much about this? Kiba asked, slightly annoyed he was being left out of the loop. Sai stared blankly at the tall Chunin. I am an infiltration specialist in Umbu. There isn't much that I don't know, and I am the Jounin that is on the list to be given a 6-month transfer in IWA. Niji added emotionlessly. Really, do you know who else is being chosen? Kiba asked with some excitement. He had always wanted to see some of the other major villages. I believe your sister is being sent to Kiri. A kunoichi named Yuga will be going to Suna, and once the post-war promotions are given, Shikamaru will be heading to Kumo. Niji answered. Kiba's shoulders slumped in disappointment. While he knew being chosen was always going to be a long shot, finding out that so many people he knew were chosen was frustrating. Ah man, why is Shikamaru going and not me? I believe that would be because Gaara chose him as the second in command of their battalion during the war. That sort of thing does not go unnoticed by higher-ups. Sai said with a fake smile that he had hoped was comforting. It was not, but that means that shinobi from the other villages will be coming to Konoha as well, right? Hinata asked. She had enjoyed talking to some of the shinobi from other villages. They always had fascinating stories about their homes and places they had seen. Yes, one shinobi from each village. I do not know who has been chosen. Niji answered. Geez, you brats are loud. It's a big hall and I can hear you lot from the kitchen. Suminazuka said while taking a seat at the far end of the table. Sorry, Ka-san. Kiba mumbled. Sim kept a stern face for a few moments before breaking out in laughter. Still as foolish as ever, Kiba-chan. There is nobody else here, so there is no reason to be quiet. Geez, Ka-san, can't you give it a rest? Why are you here anyway? Kiba huffed, embarrassed from his mother's teasing. I thought you wanted to know about the first 2 Jinchuriki of the Kyubi. They are both rather famous in their own right. But I guess that if you want me to leave, then that's fine, I'll go. Sim said nonchalantly. As the Inuzuka clan head began to stand up, Kiba began to panic. Wait, no, I'm sorry. Please stay, he begged, banging his head on the table as he bowed in apology. Once more Sim burst out in a fit of laughter, but at the same time returned to her seat. Just as easy as your father ever was. All men are the same. Dangle something they want in front of their eyes and they are as easy to manipulate as chakra. All the young ninja at the table looked on with a deadpan expression, thinking the same thing. I'm not like that at all. Sim ignored the looks of the young men and began her tale. The story of the Kyubi Jinchuriki is almost as old as Konoha itself. You all know about the fight between Madara Uchiha and the Shodai Hokage at the Valley of the End, I trust? In response, everyone at the table nodded. Then you will know that Madara summoned many of the Bijou in his fight, and the last one he used was the Kyubi. While Hashirama-sama had been able to contain and subdue the other Bijou, that fox was far more difficult. In the end, however, Madara was defeated that day and the Kyubi restrained. But what to do with the Bijou? The Kyubi would not be contained for long even with Shodai-sama's Mokutan abilities. So Shodai-sama created a Jinchuriki? Hinata asked timidly. Sim shook her head. No, Hashirama-sama did not have the required knowledge of sealing to do something like that at the time. Nobody in Konoha did. She answered. Then how did we get the Jinchuriki? Kiba asked. The Senju clan had some distant relatives, cousins if you will, that came from a different village. Due to their great friendship, several members of that family were in Konoha during the time of the fight between Madara and Hashirama-sama. That was the Uzumaki clan. One member, a young woman, was one of the finest Fuinjutsu masters in their village. When she came across the Kyuubi breaking free of its restraint, she acted. She sealed the Kyuubi into the only thing possible to contain it, her own body. Some paused, knowing that there would be some questions. I thought it had to be a newborn child, one without developed chakra coils. Shino said, shocking the group. Hear the normally silent Aburaim ask a question so bluntly. Some nodded in agreement. Normally that would be the case. The strain of a biju's chakra entering a fully developed body would kill them. But like the guard from Kiri said, the Uzumaki clan always had a few oddballs. It also was next to impossible to kill one of them. She laughed at the end. Sounds about right. Look at all the people who tried and failed to kill Naruto. Sai said calmly. The village that the Uzumaki clan came from was known as the Village of Longevity because of their clan. They would live twice as long as most would consider normal. They also were blessed with large chakra capacities, ones capable of holding the biju. But most noteworthy was their use of seals. Fuinjutsu was like second nature to them. Once they picked up the art of sealing, they would master it. Even the most useless students seemed to have no problem when it came to Fuinjutsu. The Inuzuka clan had explained. So who was the first Jinchuriki? Niji asked politely. Some smiled. She had fond memories of the kindly old woman she had met a few times as a child. Her name was Mito Uzumaki. I think I have heard that name somewhere before. Hinata said, tapping her chin, trying to remember where. That wouldn't surprise me. Your father would have had you taught about the village history as the clan heir of the Hyuga clan. Of course he wouldn't mention that she was a Jinchuriki, and chances are he wouldn't have given you her clan name because Naruto was in your class. Mito Uzumaki became the wife of the Shodai. There was a small gasp from all those at the table save for Sai and Shino, who were as expressionless as ever. From that time the Kyuubi has been inside Konoha, however only the clan heads and top-ranking shinobi have ever known about it. That was until the night Naruto was born. Some said, but Mito-sama died long before we were born, so who was the second Jinchuriki? Hinata asked. That would be Naruto's mother, Kushina Uzumaki. One of the most terrifying women Konoha has ever had. Apart from myself, of course, some joked. If she was Naruto-kun's mother, then that means she was also married to a Hokage, Yandame-sama. Hinata said, enjoying the small amount of sentiment, knowing how tough Jinchuriki's lives could be from watching Naruto for so long. But I was never taught about the Yandame's wife when I received my history lessons from tutors, she added as an afterthought. Sim nodded and a slight scowl crossed her face. No, you wouldn't have. All records of Kushina were kept classified once she died. It's a shame the things we do to one of our own in the name of their protection. Because the village elders feared an attack after the Kyuubi incident, the fact that Naruto was Yandame-sama's son was kept hidden. Only those few that knew the couple personally were privy to that information. It was all done to stop shinobi from other villages killing Naruto because he was a Jinchuriki and the son of the Yellow Flash. She spat bitterly. As a Inuzuka, Tsum was fiercely loyal to all the people of Konoha. It never sat right with her how Naruto was treated, even if she was somewhat wary of the boy herself at times, if only due to his tendency to prank most of the people of the village. So they stopped Naruto from knowing who his parents were, because they were afraid if he knew then he would be targeted by assassins. Niji summarized. The older Kunoichi nodded to affirm Niji's assessment. That's about it. To be honest, I know which I would prefer. To know my life was in constant danger, or to never know my family. I would choose to live knowing someone wanted me dead any day. Family is more important than anything. In the end, thanks to the Akatsuki, Naruto got to know both pains. The table fell silent, everyone silently thinking about what Sam had said. The only one struggling with the concept seemed to be Sai. He never had a family and never knew who his real parents were either, yet he had a brother, so to speak. But if they never met, then he wouldn't have had that either. After some consideration, the former root ninja decided that the thought of not knowing his brother made him uneasy, so his train of thought changed to deciding what the best nickname for Ino would be. As beautiful and ugly didn't seem to go down too well with Sakura. So 3 Jinchuriki, all Uzumakis, yet most of the people act like they never existed. Niji finally spoke. His voice was calm, but he was rather upset by this fact. Some agreed with the young Jounin's sentiment, whether people know about it or not. We all wear their symbol. The spiral on the back of our vests is a whirlpool of Yuzushiogakure, emblem of not only their village but also the whole Uzumaki clan. It's there as a mark of respect and friendship between our villages. So where is this village? Kiba asked. He was already making plans to go check it out when he had some time off from missions. It was destroyed many years ago. I am not sure by who, perhaps some of the higher-ups know more. Even as a clan head, I am not told everything. The Kunoichi admitted. They must have been something special. I wonder why they were wiped out though. Hinata sighed. Old clans have old rivalries. The older they become, the more unique it is that they are to be prosperous. Young and idealistic, it's not just what they say about the next generation. Old wounds cut deep if they are not healed. Someone obviously held a grudge against the Uzumaki clan. Shino guessed. Well, on this topic, your guess is as good as mine. If anyone would know, it would be Tsunade-sama. She would be 1/4 Uzumaki from her grandmother. She was also Hokage, so there wouldn't be many village secrets that she doesn't know. Niji replied. Those around the table nodded in agreement. I still wouldn't rate your chance of getting the answers out of her high. Some sighed sympathetically. Well, we won't know unless we try. Then there is also Kakashi-sama. He was the Yandame's student, so he might know something as well. Kiba said confidently. Some sighed and stood up from the table. I guess you can try, she said before leaving the group to go about their discussion. You will never get anything out of Hataki-sama Kiba-chan. As long as his comrades are not in danger, he follows his orders. Those who break the rules are trash after all. She was right. Kakashi had always given up what he wanted for his orders. Several times he had asked to be able to meet Naruto as a child, but each time he had been told that Naruto was to have a normal childhood. Although he never enjoyed seeing what that normal childhood contained, he had hoped to train Naruto and Sasuke together for the Chunin exams. That was until he received a small toad messenger right after the preliminary rounds. Jiraiya had come to take over his training. Kakashi knew that he would come eventually, but so soon after becoming a team had been somewhat unexpected. Still, Kakashi willingly gave up the role of sensei to the author of his favorite books, and he had quite the laugh about just how the first meeting between the pair played out. Northern Land of Earth. A day had passed since Naruto and Karen had left the underground tunnel traveling north, and their pace had slowed dramatically. Large cliffs of ice forced them to climb high up only to drop straight down at the other side. Every so often there would be a minor avalanche that would force the pair to take cover until it passed. But possibly the worst of their situation was the cold. Even with their thermal sub-zero clothes, it was freezing. On the plus side, they had found a nice stable place to set up camp for the night, using one of the many steep cliff faces as a windbreak. Can that heater be turned up anymore? I'm still cold, Karen asked. Her breath was visible from the cold, showing just how ineffective the heater was. No, it's on full. I have more heaters, but we don't know when we might need them later on. I would rather keep it down to one at a time to preserve the others. We're just going to have to wait for it to start to take effect. This tent is well insulated, so hopefully it won't take too long. Naruto replied apologetically. You're probably right. Damn it, I hate being cold, she complained. Naruto knew she was having a much harder time of it than he was. His skin might be cold, but he had an internal superheater that wouldn't let the cold affect him. Why don't you get into your sleeping bag, warm it up? I'll prepare something to eat, he suggested. What's on the menu? I don't mind ramen, but I don't think I could eat it every night like you, Karen asked. No, I thought some soup. I've heard that's the best way to warm up, a hot bowl of soup. Unfortunately, all I have is powdered stuff. We're running out of fresh ingredients, Naruto replied. That's fine. I kinda knew things would get worse before they got better when we left this morning, so anything that's hot would be amazing right now. Karen sighed. A comfortable silence fell while Naruto cooked, and it spread during their meal with only a few words spoken between the pair. It wasn't until they were both settling in for the night that the tent was finally feeling warm. The temperature must really drop at night. It's taken forever to warm this little area, Naruto said. He knew that tomorrow night would probably be worse, and the night after that. These were not called the insurmountable peaks for nothing, and Naruto was starting to see why. I know, I was thinking that a few hours ago, she replied while her mind was off elsewhere. Her Naruto? Yeah. How long do you think we can keep this up? Our bodies will eventually freeze from the cold. We have a finite amount of time in those heaters you brought, and it's only going to get harder and colder as we keep climbing. What are we going to do? She asked. She hated to think about what was happening, but she was scared. We'll get those somehow. These mountains have to end sometime, and I bet on the other side it will be nice and warm. Just you wait, Naruto replied optimistically. Karen smiled. She enjoyed the blonde's positive outlook, and she really hoped he was right this time.